These are interesting times. I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us tonight. These are unprecedented times as well. Events unfold and change by the minute. And as the days go by, we watch as our leaders cope with the relentless march of this virus and disease. Now to the news. First, President Duterte has decided to extend the enhanced community quarantine until May 15 in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and other high-risk areas in Luzon, and imposed the ECQ in other high-risk areas in Visayas and Mindanao with high incidence of COVID-19. President Duterte, upon the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, extended the ECQ in the following areas: National Capital Region, Calabarzon, Region 4A, Central Luzon, Region 3, and specifically in these provinces: Benguet, Pangasinan, Bataan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, Zambales, Batangas, Laguna, Cavite, Rizal, Quezon, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Albay, Catanduanes, Antique, Iloilo, Cebu, Cebu City, Davao del Norte, Davao City. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said some of the listed areas like Benguet, Antique, Iloilo, Cebu, and Cebu City would still be subject to rechecking until April 30, and other areas will be placed under the so-called general community quarantine or the new normal. Let's listen in.
Matapos pong makipagpulong ang ating presidente sa mga miyembro ng IATF, tinanggap po niya ang rekomendasyon ng IATF na ilagay po sa patuloy na ECQ ang NCR, Region 3, Region 4A at iba pang mga lugar hanggang Mayo 15 po. Ang mga lugar pong ito ay ang probinsya ng Benguet na po pwede pa pong magbago by April 30, ang NCR, ang Pangasinan na po pwede rin pong magbago by April 30, Bataan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, Zambales. Yung Tarlac at Zambales po pwede pa rin magbago by April 30. Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Albay, Catanduanes. Ang Antique at Iloilo, pareho pong pwede pang ma-recheck. Ang Aklan at ang Capiz. Pati na po ang Cebu at ang Cebu City na subject din to rechecking. Ang Davao del Norte, Davao City, at ang Davao de Oro po na subject pa rin to resetting. Lahat pong probinsya na hindi napasama sa listahan nito ay mapapasailalim po sa General Community Quarantine. Yung mga areas naman po na low at moderate ay mapapasailalim nga po sa GCQ, ang new normal. Yung mga moderate na areas po ay ang mga probinsyang Negros Occidental, Negros Oriental, Siquijor, Davao del Sur, Davao Oriental, Sultan Kudarat, Lanao del Sur. At yung mga low po na areas na mapapasailalim din sa General Community Quarantine ay mga probinsya ng Apayao, Mountain Province, Ifugao, Kalinga, Ilocos Sur, Batanes, Quirino, Aurora, Palawan, Romblon, Camarines Norte, Sorsogon, Masbate, Guimaras, Bohol, Biliran, Eastern Samar, Leyte, Northern Samar, Southern Leyte, Zamboanga del Norte, Zamboanga Sibugay, Bukidnon, Camiguin, Davao Occidental, Sarangani, Agusan del Sur, Dinagat Island, Surigao del Norte, Surigao del Sur, Agusan del Norte, Basilan, at Sulu. Po ang recommendation sa mga areas under General Community Quarantine. Ito po yung mga lugar na hindi na mapapasailalim sa ECQ. Po pwede pong magtrabaho ang mga manggagawa sa Sector 1, 2, and 3. Ito po yung gagawin on a work-in phase. Yung mga bata po, edad 0 hanggang 20, at yung mga matatanda, 60 and up, and high health risk, mananatili po sila sa kanilang mga tahanan. Papayagan po ang mall opening covering non-leisure shops. Papayagan po yung mga priority and essential construction projects na mag-resume. Papayagan po ang mga non-workers to go out to buy goods and services except those pertaining to Sector Category 4, yung leisure at mga kabataan. Papayagan din po ang public transport na mag-operate at reduce capacity at ang LGU po to enforce curfew at night dun po sa mga hindi manggagawa. For GCQ areas, General Community Quarantine, i-consider po ang reprioritizing ng SAP cash subsidy towards ECQ areas. Ibig sabihin, yung SAP po na para sa areas na hindi na po under ECQ, siyempre po yung cash subsidy, kinakailangan pag-aralan na ibuhos doon sa mga areas under ECQ pa rin. Yung mga GCQ areas, consider to allow na po yung high school, higher education institute, HEI school year to finish and give credentials to students. Sa ECQ and GCQ areas, bubuksan po ang mga paliparan at ang mga puerto para sa mga goods lamang. Yung option po to shift to GCQ sa mga moderate to low risk area by industry. Nagbigay po sila ng rekomendasyon na 100% opening para sa agrikultura, fishery, forestry, sa food manufacturing at lahat po ng supply chain including ink, packaging, raw materials, sa food retail, supermarket, restaurant for takeout and delivery only, mga hospital, logistics, water, energy, internet, telecoms, media. Yung opsyon naman po sa GCQ, sa moderate to low risk area by industry, ang rekomendasyon po ay buksan from 50 to 100% opening. Yung other manufacturing po, gaya na electronics and exports, yung e-commerce and delivery for essential and non-essential items, yung repair and maintenance services po, housing and office services. Yung option po to shift to GCQ in moderate to low risk area by industry. Consider po na buksan hanggang 50% on-site work and 50% work from home. Mga financial services, BPO, other non-leisure wholesale and retail trade, other non-leisure services. Yung option po sa low risk to moderate areas na buksan by industry, consider for 100% closure. Maski po low to moderate risk, consider for 100% closure pa rin dahil po ang mga transmitters ay kabataan mula edad 0 to 20, lahat na eskwelahan. I-consider po ang late opening sa Setyembre except po sa online learning, yung leisure, amusement, gaming, and fitness, yung kid industry na tinatawag, turismo, all gatherings including religious conferences at iba pa, limited opening po ng malls at limited opening ng construction. Yan po ang rekomendasyon ng inyong IATF.
All right, to the United Kingdom now, where the first human trials was launched by the Oxford University to test a COVID-19 vaccine. Joining us live from London is Mika Manyalak. Hello, Mika.
Hi, Alma.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
So, with remedy to this pandemic, Oxford University here in the United Kingdom is starting a human clinical trials for a vaccine against the new coronavirus, with the ambitious hope of making it available to the public this year. In its first phase, half of 1,112 volunteers will receive the potential vaccine against COVID-19. The other half a control vaccine to test its safety and efficacy. We gain more insight with the director of the vaccine group of Oxford University, Professor Andrew Pollard, and 2 trial volunteers.
So there's a huge responsibility always in conducting clinical trials, but actually the key question is to make sure we have the integrity of these clinical studies to answer the question so that if the vaccine does work, that we can be confident in that result, and that will then lead to further development and hopefully deployment of the vaccine. And if it doesn't work, or there's a safety question, that we can generate those data from the trials that we're running. So at the moment, we have very small-scale manufacturing for clinical trials, and there's a big technical challenge to upscale from that to give very large numbers of doses. And particularly when you think that if you were looking at a domestic requirement, there'd be millions of doses, tens of millions of doses, but actually this is a global problem, and we need hundreds of millions or billions of doses of vaccine.
Well, I'm a scientist, so of course I want to try and support science, the scientific process, whenever I can. And since I don't study viruses, I felt a bit useless these days, so I felt like this is a very easy way for me to support the cause. Yeah, that's why I'm here, and I'm excited.
It seems like the right thing to do to ensure that we can, combat this disease and get over it a lot faster. I think you can never fully exclude any sort of potential risk, but I think you have to, walk in faith in these things. You have to trust in that the work has been done as best they can, and know that the cause is important. And so you just have to just walk in faith in that.
With continuous positivity of the more than 100 research projects around the world to find a vaccine, this is described by the United Nations as the only route back to normality. 7 are currently in clinical trials, according to the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Such trials are already underway in China and the United States, and with Germany to begin at the end of this month, where the Federal Vaccine Authority gave the green light on Wednesday. Health Minister Matt Hancock said the British government strongly supports Oxford University's work, and the first human trials were to start on Thursday. He hailed the promising development, pointing out that it would normally take years to reach such a stage of vaccine development. The volunteers are aged between 18 and 55, are in good health, have not tested positive for COVID-19, and are not pregnant or breastfeeding. 10 participants will receive 2 doses of the experimental vaccine, 4 weeks apart. Back to you, Alma.
Did the scientists in Oxford University say how this vaccine works?
Yes, Alma. So the vaccine is made from a weakened version of a common cold virus known as adenovirus. This has been taken from chimpanzees and has been modified so that it cannot grow in humans. The adenovirus vaccine is known to develop a strong immune response just with a single dose and is not a replicating virus. So therefore, it cannot cause infection, taking into account that this will make it safer for children, the elderly, and patients with underlying diseases such as diabetes. So how it works is scientists have taken the genes from the spike protein of the surface of the coronavirus and put them into the harmless virus, adenovirus, to make the vaccine.
Okay.
This is then injected into the patient. The vaccine then enters the cell and starts producing the coronavirus spike protein. This will in turn prompt the immune system to produce antibodies and activate killer T cells to destroy the infected cells. Of course, the trial volunteers will be carefully monitored in the coming months. They have been told that they may have a sore arm or headaches or fevers, as it is common to have side effects with any medication in the first couple of days after vaccination. But scientists hope that to have 1 million doses ready for September, and to dramatically scale up the manufacturing after that, should the vaccine prove effective.
All right. We'll watch out for that development. Thank you very much, Mika, and stay safe always. Stay healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alma. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, this is Micah Manialak, and we live in interesting times.
Now, the new coronavirus is quickly destroyed by sunlight. That is according to new research announced by a senior U.S. official on Thursday. though the study has not yet been made public and awaits external evaluation. Dr. William Ryan, Science and Technology Advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, told reporters at the White House that government scientists had found that ultraviolet rays had a potent impact on the pathogen, offering hope that its spread may ease over the summer. Let's listen in.
And while that's coming up, our most striking observation to date is the powerful effect that solar light appears to have on killing the virus, both surfaces and in the air. We've seen a similar effect with both temperature and humidity as well, where increasing the temperature and humidity, or both, is generally less favorable to the virus. So let me illustrate with this first slide. If you look to the right, you'll see that term half-life with a bunch of time stamps on there. First, let me tell you what a half-life is. We don't measure the virus as far as how long will it live on a surface. We have to measure the decay of the virus in terms of its half-life, because we don't know certain elements. We don't know how much a person expectorates when he spits, right? When he sneezes, whatever the case may be. We don't know how much virus is in there. So that has a bearing on how long the virus is going to be alive and active. So we measure it in half-life, because half-life doesn't change. So if you look at an 18-hour half-life, what you're basically saying is that every 18 hours, the life of the virus is cut in half. So if you start with 1,000 particles of the virus, in 18 hours you're down to 500, in 18 hours after that you're down to 250, and so on and so forth. That's important as I explain the rest of the chart. If you look at the first three lines, when you see the word surface, we're talking about non-porous surfaces, door handles, stainless steel. And if you look at as the temperature increases and as the humidity increases, with no sun involved, you can see how drastically the half-life goes down on that virus. So the virus is dying at a much more rapid pace just from exposure to higher temperatures and just from exposure to humidity. If you look at the fourth line, you inject the sunlight into that, you inject UV rays into that, the same effects on line 2 at 70 to 75 degrees with 80% humidity on the surface, and look at line 4, but now you inject the sun, the half-life goes from 6 hours to 2 minutes. That's how much of an impact the UV rays has on the virus.
Previous work has also agreed that the virus fares better in cold and dry weather than it does in hot and humid conditions, and the lower rate of spread in southern hemisphere countries where it is early fall and still warm bear this out. Australia, for example, has had just under 7,000 confirmed cases and 77 deaths, well below many northern hemisphere nations. The reasons are thought to include that respiratory droplets remain airborne for longer in colder weather, and that viruses degrade more quickly on hotter surfaces because a protective layer of fat that envelopes them dries out faster. Now, U.S. health authorities also believe that even if COVID-19 cases slow over summer, the rate of infection is likely to increase again in fall and winter, in line with other seasonal viruses like the flu. All right, we have a very special guest with us today. Marilyn Bautista is an NHS nurse in the United Kingdom. Now, she sets up COVID-19 wards, but she also contracted the virus herself. Hello, Marilyn. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Alma.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You're okay now?
I'm doing very well at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, so Marilyn, tell us, thank you for accepting this interview. Can you tell us more about yourself and your role in the NHS?
I'm Marilyn Bautista, as you have said, and I have been a nurse here in the UK for 19 years now. But I have been in this profession for 24 years since I graduated in college in the Philippines. I have been working in the same trust in the NHS since I first arrived here in the UK. And I have been blessed to get the post as a clinical ward sister for 3 years in the endocrine ward.
And so you've been taking care of coronavirus patients as well?
Yes.
So how do you feel about that? Weren't you scared?
Well, when I first found out of the first cases we have in our hospital back in early March this year, I'm really not that worried at first because as nurses, we regularly deal with different kinds of infectious and contagious diseases in the ward. Because nurses, we are trained for the proper protocol for infection control, although policies for this varies in every trust. However, the reality of how fast this deadly disease spread sunk in when our hospital management have decided to convert all the wards in our block, except for one, to be a COVID ward.
Okay.
That's the time I realized this is getting really serious now.
And you got COVID. You were infected, right?
Yes, Alma. I was at work when I first present some COVID symptoms. Temperature of 38 degrees Celsius and a dry tickling cough. And I had to be sent home by my manager. And I was advised by the sickness monitoring team in our trust to self-isolate at home. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and my husband also works in the administration and procurement at the same trust. We live in together. They are the ones that I am most concerned of on passing the disease to if I contracted the virus. A couple of days since I have presented the symptoms, I managed to get tested for COVID with the help of my husband's manager in the ED. We had to park outside the ED and had my swabs done in the car. And unfortunately, the swabs came back positive. I continued to self-isolate from my family and just stayed in my room all the time, except for bathroom privileges. And since I tested positive, my husband had to sleep in the living room for the time being. And my husband needed to be off from work too for 14 days. I appreciate the care and the support he provided, as I am unable to do my mommy duties at the time. But I thank the Almighty God that even if I contracted the virus, I only had mild symptoms and did not affect me as most of other people in my profession did. All the symptoms have gone after 7 days since I first presented them. But on the safe side, I continue to self-isolate from my family for further 7 days. I am now fully recovered and no symptoms since. My husband has come back to work and my daughter has been in good health.
What were your symptoms? I just want to know. What did you feel first?
So at first, I had, for a couple of days, I had temperature, high temperature. It didn't go higher than 38 degrees Celsius. After a few days, I felt some dizzy spells, and those are my symptoms. I didn't get much of breathing problems, maybe because I normally take an inhaler for my asthma, and
you have
I
asthma
believe
as
that
well.
helped me. Yes.
So how did you decide to have the test because of those symptoms, and you got a positive test and you got a positive result for the COVID? Did you have it in the hospital where you work in?
Yes. As I've mentioned, we had to ask favor from my husband's manager in A&E or emergency department. And they took a swab from me in the car park because I can't be inside the emergency department.
That's kind of difficult, yeah. Were you given any support or financial support or aid from the government?
In terms of financial support, the only support I believe is that since I work in the NHS, they are very supportive in terms of like they didn't mind that I'm recuperating for the illness, and since I have a medical pre-existing condition, I had to still be off work from at the moment, and I believe that's a big support that they have given me so far.
Okay, so you've fully recovered, and that's very good news. Do you have any advice for our viewers and our public, or for the public, for coping at home?
Yes, if we are coping with the virus at the moment, you still try to think positive in our outlook in life. Talking or FaceTiming with friends and relatives help me to go through every day. We may feel discouraged at times and would worry, but the thing that helped me the most was a sincere and humble prayer to the Almighty God. Boredom could also strike us during this lockdown period, but there are plenty of ways to fight it. You can do your favorite hobby that you can do indoors or maybe at your own garden if you have one. And cooking or baking perhaps, and assisting your kids with their home learning. There are plenty of ways. I believe this pandemic has taught us something, that in times of this crisis, the integral part of the community, which is the family support system, is at its best. And above all, I learned how to trust more in our Almighty God.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Thank you. Thanks to you, we might come out more patient and understanding in relating to such crisis such as this. Thank you so much for your time, Marilyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma.
Eagle News, we'll be right back.
Maraming salamat po sa nurse na nag-asikaso sa amin ng anak ko kahit sobrang busy niya.
Hindi po ako iniwan ng doktor hanggang sa umayos ang pakiramdam ko. Salamat po talaga.
Thank you po sa nursing assistant na pumansin agad sa amin pagdating namin ng ospital.
Thank you so much po talaga sa lahat ng staff ng ospital, maging sa mga utility po, dahil gumaling po ako dahil sa kanila.
Ating pasalamatan at pangalagaan ang mga magigiting na health workers.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Now, Italy is to ease its coronavirus lockdown, the toughest and longest in Europe, over the next 4 weeks, according to media on Friday, although there was no official confirmation. Now, the Corriere della Sera Daily reported, quote, the next 4 Mondays will mark the country's reopening following the lockdown implemented last month to slow the spread of the new coronavirus. Everything depends on the infection curve, the best-selling daily said, but if it doesn't rise again, factories making agricultural and forestry equipment can reopen by April 27. The COVID-19 pandemic has killed at least 25,500 people in Italy, the world's second highest death toll. Building sites as well as the textile and fashion industry can restart on May 4, followed a week later by clothing, shoe, and other shops. Finally, bars, restaurants, and hairdressers can reopen on May 18, according to the paper. Other Italian media also said that bars and restaurants could reopen sometime in the second half of May. The country's gradual reopening will be accompanied by strict hygiene measures and continued social distancing. Shops with a surface area of 40 square meters or less will be allowed only one customer at a time. Bars and restaurants will have to keep a distance of 1 meter between customers who will preferably not be seated in air-conditioned spaces where viruses spread more easily. Italy's national lockdown is the longest one currently in force anywhere in the world. Its stay-at-home orders, introduced on March 9, have since been replicated by other European nations. The government ordered all shops except for pharmacies and grocery stores to close on March 12. Austria said on Friday it would start to reopen classes at schools from May 4 as it continues a gradual loosening of coronavirus lockdown measures. Take a look. Some 100,000 final year students will go back to school on May 4, according to Education Minister Heinz Fasman, he told this during a press conference. Schools for 6 to 14-year-olds will reopen by May 15, while classes for other students age 15 and over will follow from May 29, provided infections don't surge again. He also added classes would be split into 2 groups, with teachers taking only 1 group on a given day to ensure that numbers are kept to around 11 students per classroom so a safe distance can be kept between them. The group not being taught at any one time will be able to work on assignments in other rooms or at home. Students will also have to wear masks inside schools, except for when they are seated at their desks inside classrooms. Music and gym lessons will, however, not resume, and the curriculum will focus on core subjects. Austria this month began easing the lockdown measures imposed in March and which have so far succeeded in slowing the spread of the coronavirus. Small shops and gardening and hardware stores started to reopen in mid-April. Larger shops will follow next week. Restaurants are expected to reopen from mid-May. And Spain's director of the Health Ministry's Coordination Center for Health Alerts, Fernando Simon, announced that for the first time since the start of the epidemic, Spain has registered more new cases of people cured from COVID-19 than new cases of people infected by the virus. Now, Spain saw 367 people die of novel coronavirus over the past 24 hours, for the lowest daily number of deaths in 4 weeks, according to government on Friday. The latest figures are the lowest daily toll since March 22, when 394 deaths were reported. Now, that brought the total fatalities from the pandemic in the country to 22,524, the third highest number of virus deaths in the world after the U.S. and Italy. And South Africa's 5-week coronavirus lockdown will be slowly eased from next month. That is according to President Cyril Ramaphosa. As he sought a balance between protecting the people and letting them earn a living, President Ramaphosa rolled out strict confinement measures on March 27, under which people were only allowed to leave their homes for groceries, pharmaceuticals, and medical appointments. Let's listen in.
30th of April. Beyond, we should begin a gradual and phased recovery of economic activity. We will implement what we call a risk-adjusted strategy, through which we take a deliberate and cautious approach to the easing of current lockdown restrictions.
Though infections rose to nearly 4,000 cases on Thursday and 75 deaths, the highest in Africa, the spread has slowed during an initial 3-week lockdown period that was later extended until April 30. A $26 billion relief package was announced earlier this week to stimulate the economy and cushion vulnerable people during the coronavirus pandemic. While South Africans are still encouraged to remain home, some businesses will be able to resume operations under specific conditions and in a phased manner as of next month. Borders are to stay shut and travel between provinces remains forbidden. Meanwhile, over the past week, there have been scattered protests in several U.S. states against confinement measures. From New Hampshire, Maryland, and Pennsylvania to Texas and California, the demonstrators, some of them armed, were mostly mask-free, and many ignored social distancing measures. Take a look.
The virus is a flu like any other flu.
We need to unlock California. We need our freedom back. We need to be able to work. We need to be able to socialize as soon as we can.
You draw the line. There's nowhere in our Constitution that the government can shut down the American people from having basic freedom based on anything.
We're not afraid of the virus at all. It's run its course. I already had the virus myself, and a lot of other people have also. And, you know, we can't get infected again, and we want to reopen. We need money, we need food, we need to help our families out.
Protesting the shutdown. This is crazy. People are losing their jobs. They can't pay their rent. They can't buy groceries for their kids.
Recovered. And the recovery rate, they said, is about 98%. And well, why are you shutting down the world over this? This is craziness. It's crazy. People will starve. They'll commit suicide. They'll lose everything over this. I mean, the cure, like Trump said, the cure cannot be worse than the disease.
I think it's a bit of an overreaction over an obvious problem. But for the most part, we know what to do. We know how to take care of ourselves. We've already been told, stay at home when you can. We need to get back to work.
The biggest protest to date was in the Michigan state capital, Lansing, on April 15, where about 3,000 protesters gathered. U.S. President Donald Trump has apparently tweeted support for the demonstrators in 3 states, Minnesota, Michigan, and Virginia, against lockdowns imposed by Democratic governors. But while the noisy demonstrations have drummed up attention, the protesters represent a minority because more than 80% of U.S. residents would approve a national stay-at-home order, according to a recent Quinnipiac poll. The United States has suffered the highest toll from the pandemic, with more than 42,360 fatalities and 787,900 confirmed cases. The House of Representatives passed a new $483 billion economic stimulus bill as U.S. job losses due to the coronavirus soared and businesses clamored for more support. Take a look. The House voted overwhelmingly for the bill already passed by the Senate, and President Trump indicated he would quickly sign it into law to pump more emergency funding into the world's largest economy. The bill came as another 4.4 million U.S. workers filed new claims for jobless benefits, bringing the total to 26.4 million since mid-March. Unemployment has rocketed as much of the nation shut down to stall the spread of the virus, which has taken about 48,000 lives across the country since February. The House vote capped 2 weeks of wrangling by Democrats and Republicans over how to add to the massive $2.2 trillion CARES Act enacted in late March to support businesses and families hit hard by shutdowns and layoffs. The unemployment claims figures released Thursday show that layoffs have continued at a high rate for a 5th week despite help from Congress. The new package would provide another $320 billion for small businesses to keep their doors open and pay their workers after the initial $349 billion in the Paycheck Protection Program was drained in just 2 weeks. The new funding will also provide $75 billion for hospitals, $25 billion to expand virus testing, and $60 billion in disaster recovery loans and grants. And we'll be back. We'll take a short break.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
People have been confirmed dead following the spread of a new strain of coronavirus, which was first identified in Wuhan, central China.
Mga kababayan ko, do not panic.
Welcome back. Several Virgin Australia planes were seized on Friday in what an airport operator said was an attempt to recoup debt from the carrier, which collapsed under the strain of the coronavirus pandemic this week. Take a look. Perth Airport Chief Executive Kevin Brown told national broadcaster ABC that 4 of the airline's planes had been seized, none of which were currently in service. Australia's government had refused a $1.4 billion loan request to bail out the majority foreign-owned company, which had already made 1,000 workers redundant and stood down 8,000 of its 10,000 pilots, flight attendants, and ground crew. It had also suspended all international routes and scrapped all but one of its domestic routes after Australia shut its borders to limit the spread of COVID-19. In other business news, French pharmaceutical giant Sanofi said that its first quarter sales surged in part due to the stockpiling of the painkiller Doliprane as other companies around the world struggled during this pandemic. Now, sales of Doliprane paracetamol, which can alleviate the fever and aches associated with the virus, shot up by more than 20%, helping boost the firm's net sales by 6.9% to nearly 9 billion euros or $9.6 billion. The company, in a statement, said COVID-19 stocking in channels explains about half of company sales growth in Q1. The company also credited sales of Dupixent, a treatment for atopic dermatitis and asthma, which soared by nearly 130%. Sanofi said its net income grew by 15.9% over the first 3 months of 2020, with roughly half of this growth due to COVID-19 impact. The Paris-based pharma giant has also started collaborations to work on a coronavirus vaccine that is hoped will enter clinical trials this year, potentially making it available in the second half of 2021. Meanwhile, it has launched 2 studies into whether hydroxychloroquine, a drug for rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, which Sanofi sells under the brand name Plaquenil, can be an effective treatment for coronavirus patients. Eagle News will be right back.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Environment news. The last 50 years have seen the physical signs of climate change and their impacts gathering speed at a dangerous rate, according to the UN Weather Agency on Wednesday. Now, since the first Earth Day in 1970, carbon dioxide levels have gone up 26%, and the world's average temperature has increased by 0.86 degrees Celsius or 33.5 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet is also 1.1 degree or nearly 34 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the pre-industrial era, and this trend is expected to continue according to the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO. In its latest report warning of the impacts of climate change, the WMO confirmed that the last 5 years have been the hottest on record. Now, this warning has been uneven, with Europe experiencing the highest change in the last decade. Other key indicators showed an accelerating of climate change too. Now, these include rising sea level up more than 11 centimeters since 1970, glacier melt, and Arctic and Antarctic ice shedding, with losses 5 times higher in the last 5 years than 50 years ago. Now, COVID-19 may cause a brief drop in greenhouse gas emissions, but the climate threat, like the pandemic, does not respect national boundaries. That is the message from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Earth Day. Now, in a call for sustained action to protect the planet and shrinking biodiversity, Mr. Guterres urged countries to embrace sustainable strategies as part of their economic recovery in response to the new coronavirus. Take a look.
On this International Mother Earth Day, all eyes are on the COVID-19 pandemic, the biggest test the world has faced since the Second World War. We must work together to save lives, ease suffering, and lessening the shattering economic and social consequences. The impact of the coronavirus is both immediate and dreadful. But there is another deep emergency, the planet's unfolding environmental crisis. Biodiversity is in steep decline, and climate disruption is approaching a point of no return. We must act decisively to protect our planet from both the coronavirus and the existential threat of climate disruption. The current crisis is an unprecedented wake-up call. We need to turn the recovery into a real opportunity to do things right for the future. I'm therefore proposing 6 climate-related actions to shape the recovery and the work ahead. First, as we spent huge amounts of money to recover from coronavirus, we must deliver new jobs and businesses through a clean, green transition. Second, where taxpayers' money is used to rescue businesses, it needs to be tied to achieving green jobs and sustainable growth. Third, fiscal firepower must drive a shift from the grey to the green economy and make societies and people more resilient. Fourth, public funds should be used to invest in the future, not the past, and flow to sustainable sectors and projects that help the environment and the climate. Fossil fuel subsidies must end, and polluters must start paying for their pollution. Fifth, climate risks and opportunities must be incorporated into the financial system, as well as all aspects of public policy making and infrastructure. Six, we need to work together as an international community.
All right, and that's all the time we have for you today. May we leave you with a word of hope. Together we are strong. Together we can persevere. Getting through this will take everyone working together. Let's do our part. And that's the news for tonight. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
Batid ko po at nating lahat ang suliraning dinadanas po ngayon ng buong mundo. Nakakalungkot man po, ngunit may mga kababayan po tayo na namamatay at dumadanas ng matinding paghihirap dahil dito. Ngunit huwag po sana tayong mawalan ng pag-asa dahil isa lamang po itong pagsubok na kapag po nagtulong-tulong tayo ay malalagpasan din po natin.
At sana po kahit na tulad ko po ay nananatili tayo sa loob ng ating mga bahay, ay gawin pa rin po natin ang lahat ng ating makakaya upang tumulong. Marami pong paraan upang makatulong mula sa ating mga bahay. Meron na pong mga online donations, meron pong mga iba pang paraan ng pagtulong. Lalo na po para sa ating frontliners. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng mga nagbubuwis ng kanilang mga buhay araw-araw para po sa ating kapakanan.
At sumunod po tayo sa government natin because at the end of the day, everything that they're telling us is for our own safety. At higit po sa lahat, make sure to pray for everyone, pray for everything that is going on right now.
What is important is to hold on to things, for us to stay more positive, for us to be more strong, not only physically but also mentally. Spend time with our loved ones, with our families, and let's all trust God. Continue to be loyal to Him, always be more prayerful, and stay positive, stay safe and well, and God is all with us.
Stay positive pa rin po ang paningin natin sa buhay, at stay healthy, stay at home. Higit sa lahat, huwag po natin kakalimutan ng manalangin sa ating Panginoong Diyos dahil ayun po ang sagot sa lahat po ng problema. So, mag-ingat po tayong lahat, and God bless.
So maraming salamat pong muli sa mga frontliners at sa lahat po ng mga gumagawa ng lahat ng kanilang makakaya upang makatulong. God bless you all.